Okay, we're working with a slightly different perspective here for turn number 8. I have received the orders from both sides and I am ready to execute them. We will see a cannon fire. I'll try to capture some of that with the hand cam. So, switching first to red orders. I'm going down to the red orders channel. I did not receive orders for one part of it, and I will do the best to improvise. So, heavy horse, left face enclosed within 3 inches of the armored foot. So a left face for horse, I believe, is going to cost less. Half cost, so it's going to be a quarter move to do a left face. And they are heavy horse, so they move 12. So a quarter off 12 is going to leave us with 9. So they're only moving 3 inches. So 3 for the left face, 3 for the move. That will leave no fatigue for this particular facing change and slight tightening on the board. Late breaking correction, these should have done a left face, not a right face, and I only moved them 3 inches that way. They actually should be moving 9 inches that way because they only lost 3 for the left face move. And yeah, let me fix that right now. Next, cannon, fire on the skirmishers. So we'll see what happens if the skirmishers move. The skirmishers are within heavy cannon range. Let's see if they come within light cannon range too before the artillery segment. Okay, all skirmishers, just below half move. Fire upon nearest opposing unit in range. All skirmishers, half move. So I'm assuming, probably a safe assumption here, that there are skirmishers that are left. These 5 blocks are now facing toward the enemy and are going to move half a move. That means they're not going to be able to do pass-through fire, but they will be able to engage in missile fire during the missile segment. So a half a move for these guys, which is 9, is going to be 4.5. So I'm going to take these guys I'm going to take these guys across the battlefield, 4.5. Ha! Love it when that kind of stuff happens. All right. Okay, there we go. So we'll see if they get a shot during the missile segment. Lone hero, move toward what they perceive to be the enemy army commander. Okay, so this hero had joined in the midst of skirmishers crossing the river. I think they can complete the move to the opposite shore, which is where all of the enemy heroes are that they could potentially challenge. So I'm just going to move him over here, and we'll remind the players that more than fatigued at this point and cannot be attacked, as we've previously determined. Okay, yellow infantry block, so that would be their heavy foot. Move toward enemy. No, I'm sorry, full move to within 3 inches of arquebuses. Armored foot. Hold fast. So yellow infantry block, full move to within 3 inches of arquebuses. So within 3 inches of these guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a half takes them within 3 inches of the arquebuses. 5.5. So they will incur fatigue, and I'm going to put this to kind of jostle my memory. Switching over to blue orders. Let's make sure the camera is still capturing some of this stuff. Testing, testing. Yes, the camera is still working. All right, so opposite side of the table. Eastern skirmishers. That's over here. Wheel to face south-southwest, fire at will, prioritize enemy arquebuses. I think 1, 2, 3. That's kind of, that would be southwest. This would be southwest. Yeah, I think they'd be even more angled if they were going southwest. So I think 3 moves, so that's less than half of their move, and fire at will. So we'll see what, in prioritizing enemy arquebuses. Fire at will, that could become important. Arquebuses, stand fast, fire at will. So let's take a look at the arquebus range. I want to make sure I got this right. Arquebus range 18. 18. So will these guys get a shot at all? These guys do not have any shots at all, and we've previously established that. Definitely nothing there for arquebuses. These guys, 24, will have a shot at your heavy foot. 24 will not have a shot at the heavy foot. So 1 rank looks like have a shot at the heavy foot, but they were told to hit the arquebuses. So 24. They can shoot at the arquebuses. It's pretty limited, though, in scope as far as what they can get. All right. And I did not receive firing orders for those troops, if I am correct here. And even if I did, the range is 18. Range is not going to be sufficient to reach anybody at all. So again, these composite skirmishers outdistance these guys. So no shot, no shot. Heavy crossbow. Let's double check this. Heavy crossbow. Heavy crossbows have a range of 21. What are they ordered to do? Advance 4 south and fire at will. Advance 4 south and fire at will. I think they're going to have a shot for sure. So 4 south. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and we already changed them from the oblique to moving south. So 4 and fire at will. They can fire at anything in a 45-degree arc. Heavy crossbowmen, no, they've got a range of 24. Wow, these guys are pretty good. So their range extends out. They can hit anything in here. So the question will be, what did they shoot at? Because they were not given any priorities of fire. Center skirmishers stand fast and fire at will. So they have a shot with 24. They do have a shot because these guys moved up. They've got a shot, but the shot going back the other way, because these only have a range of 15, not a shot. So those guys are going to fire. All right. And then heavy foot, armored foot, advance 6. Same thing, light cannon, heavy cannon, although the cannon now have been given an order to fire at will. So they're pushing forward aggressively this turn. I like it. Those cannons are going to have shots next time. They're direct fire weapons though, so this guy is pretty much the only one that has an unmasked shot at this point. Farm skirmishers, advance 6 south and fire at will. And the heavy horse and heavy horse rest in place. So 6 south and fire at will. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And golly, somewhere they're past the halfway point of the farm. Just past the halfway point. All right, so any missileer unit that stood fast could fire during the pass-through phase. However, we've already established which ones had range and which ones didn't. Composite bowmen, yes, they would have had a shot at the midpoint for sure. So how many do we have here? We've got 12. 12 firing on half armored, which I think we've done enough now to know it gets split up into 2 groups of 6, doing 2 2 casualties for each group of 6. So that would be 4 more casualties versus those skirmishers during the movement segment pass-through fire. So 4 more. Let's just take 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's look at this now. These guys were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks of 4. They were 20. They're down to 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. They're down to 12 of 20. They're down to 60% effectiveness. They're down 40%. They're considered lightfoot. They will have to make a roll for instability due to excess casualties. Now the question here is, are they within 12 inches of an Army commander? So since we're not announcing who the Army commander is at this point, to keep the fog of war going, I'm going to measure from both of these heroes because that third hero is definitely not going to factor in. I do not see them being within 12 inches of either of those heroes, so there will be no morale bonus to this roll. We know that this roll is pretty critical. I'm going to try and roll it where it can be seen. 3 and 3, so that's 6. And if I remember right, they needed a 7. Let's go take a look at instability due to excess casualties. Here it is, instability due to excess casualties. Light actually requires 8 or better. I rolled a 6 again, continuing my poor rolls that are really hurting the team over here on this side. So this unit was eliminated during pass-through fire. They do not get their shot because that took place during the movement segment, and I'm so sorry. So sorry about that, but that's what's going to happen. They are considered routed as far as points, so I will move them off the board at this point. Those Eastern skirmishers wheeled, so there was no pass-through fire there. Those guys stood fast, that's right, and these guys moved, so there was no pass-through fire on that side at all left. The heavy crossbowmen also moved, right? Yes, they moved. So no more pass-through fire. So we're done completely with the movement segment. Artillery fire. So these guns moved, they don't get a shot. These guns potentially get shots. So they've been ordered to attack the skirmishers. First, the heavy gun, which I was not given instructions on firing short or firing long, so it will be the cannoneers, nor on the point of aim. Definitely within range. All right, I've got to consider that I didn't measure that. What about the light cannon? Does he have a shot? Light cannon might have a shot, but it's very low quality. All right. I really wish I would have had more specific orders. All right, I'm going to call it 50-50. If it's odds he fires, evens he doesn't. Odds he fires. So the light cannon is also going to fire. The light cannon's only way of making a contact with the enemy is to shoot at the middle of these 2 blocks over here. Otherwise, it's out of range. So his point of aim is between those 2 blocks, and he knows that it's going to be the black end that he wants to make contact because, you know, he's an experienced enough gunner to know that the black end is the only thing that's going to make contact. So he calls the range properly, but the question is, does it veer left or right, and how much? 6. So the procedure here for this light cannon is that I lay this down with its point of aim, which I just said was over here, right between those 2 blocks. It's really hard to do this, guys. By the way, the blocks move, the dowel moves, and then you take the variation measure. So 1.5 segments, variation measure. So as best I can tell, if this is the center of the dowel at 3, and we move this over here to 6. The point of aim is now actually those 2 blocks. The range is effective, and he destroys these 2 skirmishers with that shot. Okay. First cannon shot taken probably in chainmail and forever. Hopefully I did this not incorrectly, because I'm going to do the same thing with the heavy cannon. Same thing, this guy was aiming. Now the question is, there were 12 guys there. Did the crews coordinate? I think it's like 50-50 on that. Odd numbers, they did not coordinate. Even numbers, they coordinated. Even, it's a 4. They have coordinated their fire, so he knows not to shoot toward the left end. He knows he can't shoot here because he is blocked by these arquebuses, but he is going to shoot toward the middle. So I think the point of aim he laid on would have been dead center of that formation. And he's trying to hit both of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. Now, let's roll to see how much it varies from his point of aim. He rolled a 2, which means that I come out here to the end. So let's put 3 down here on the end. And again, these dowels are both 5/8 inch. For the heavy cannon, it should be 3/4 of an inch, but because we're in centimeter scale, it's really not going to matter. I think it's 2 units no matter how you slice it here. Anyway, put it at a 3. He rolled a 2, which means he's going to be 1.5 inches, in this case centimeters, off from where he's at. Am I on the centimeter side? It looks like I might be on the, yeah, that's centimeters. Okay, for sure. All right, so 1.5 brings it back over here. I think that fell off of there. So I think it's going to be like that. He's only going to potentially get one of these. Now, both black and white happen to be in the middle of this cube. I'll take a picture of this just to document it for posterity. And hopefully it won't end my voice recording memo here. It's interesting. So he straddles it. So it really doesn't matter. Well, it does matter. No, it doesn't matter. Because in either case, there's both black and white on that block. My recording is still going. Fantastic. Okay. So that cannon fired as well. And it takes out one more block. So that is 3 skirmishers out of 12. Actually, wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How did these guys have less skirmishers? That doesn't make sense. Obviously, I've done something wrong with the cats messing with stuff, because this should be 12, and this should have been 12 as well. They never took any casualties. So really, they're down 3 out of 12. That's 1/4. Could just be it's the end of the day. Yeah, 25%. So they need 8 or better. I'll figure out the rest of this stuff in a second. Are they within 12 inches of a leader? Again, there are 2 heroes over in this area that could potentially influence this if they are the leader, so I'll measure from both. And in both cases, the answer is they are not within 12 inches of the Army commander. So now, can these guys roll an 8 or better to stay? This is where the dice can cut both ways. I rolled a 10. If you will believe it, your luck is holding out blue side. So these skirmishers are not going to be removed from the battlefield. They did take 3 casualties from the cannon fire. So this is the first time I've got casualties on this side of the table. I'll straighten out the number of skirmishers here in just a moment. That was cannon fire. We're doing the artillery segment. There's no more on that side, so we're done with the artillery segment. Now we're moving to the missile segment, and we are 28 minutes into this thing, this battle. Missile fire. All right. coming back down here. Let's work the problem methodically and get it right. Here's where my other dice disappeared to. Right. Missile fire. This unit of composite bowmen were given orders to attack the arquebuses, if I'm remembering right. But we won't go with memory. We'll go with what the orders actually say. Skirmishers in the east, fire at will, prioritize enemy arquebuses. They do have a shot at the enemy arquebuses, but not many of them are in range. So, 24. We've got 7. I've got 7 firers over here against half armored. Let's take a look. 7 firers versus half armored. There is a line for 7 to 8 versus half armored. I must roll the dice now. 1. That would be 2 casualties. If they're moved up to 1/2, they fire once. Okay, fire once. So back to this. 2 casualties against the enemy arquebuses. Now, the question here is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That's 20%. These are considered light. That is not enough to trigger instability due to excess casualties. So that's done. Arquebuses not firing back and forth. Heavy crossbowmen. They're shot. Heavy crossbowmen fire at will. All right. Do they have a shot at anything else? No. The only thing they can shoot at are the arquebuses. Let's make sure once again that these guys are in range. 21. All right. The first rank is definitely in range. And it looks like, to my eye, unfortunately, the second rank is also in range. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. Heavy crossbowmen, 24. Yeah. And they're direct fire weapons, so they can't fire indirectly anyway. Yeah, so the commander of that unit would have fired all of them that way. So again, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. 18 of them firing at half armored. That will be 2 groups of 9, both groups doing 3 casualties. So that's a combined total of 6 casualties. 2, 4, 6. And that will trigger a roll due to excess casualties. No heroes can influence this roll. Need an 8 or better to stay. They roll an 8. So the remaining 2 arquebuses, which are in column facing this way, will stay. But the rest of them are casualties, KIA. So that unit has almost evaporated. So I fired these 2. Got one more thing left to fire, and that is the 12 skirmishers here. So 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So these 2 blocks should be over here. I have goofed this up thanks to the cats keep batting things back and forth. All right. We'll just combine the line here. We'll just combine it. Okay, so 12 of these guys. They have a range of 24. Do they have anything in range? What was their orders? Advance and fire at will. Okay, so fire at will, 24. They do have range here, but not for much. Not for much of their unit. Looks like about 4 of these guys. Maybe 5. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 firing at half armored. 4 firing at half armored. 0 or 1, depending on the dice roll. Roll high or don't. 0. 0 casualties. So they've fired, but 0 casualties. As a matter of fact, okay, so those guys don't have to reload. Those guys don't have to reload, but these guys do. So I'm going to leave this as a marker here to signify that they need to reload next time. Okay, and I need markers for the cannons firing. So I know both of them need to reload as well. All right, those casualties all would have been considered to take place simultaneously. Yeah, I think that's it, except fatigue. All right, let's go back through the orders here. For that side, Eastern skirmishers, they had a wheel, but that wheel did not take them beyond half their movement, so no more fatigue. They're still at 2 fatigue over here. Let's clean up my table here. Messy table makes me crazy. Okay, so those guys are still at 4 fatigue. Those guys are still at 2 fatigue. Oh, arquebuses, stand fast, yeah. Stand fast. Oh, stand fast means the 4 fatigue here get removed. So 0 fatigue for those guys. Heavy crossbow. Advance 4 south, which is less than half of their movement, and fire at will, so no fatigue is incurred. Center skirmishers, stand fast. Their fatigue gets removed, fire at will. Heavy foot, armored foot, both these guys, all these guys incur fatigue. Okay. Farm skirmishers, advance 6 south, so that's half, so they incur no more fatigue. And then moving over here, heavy horse rest, nothing. All right, that's blue, red orders. Heavy horse left face and close within 3 inches. So that was a grand total of 6 of their 12. That's half, no fatigue. Cannon, fire on the skirmishers, no fatigue. All skirmishers just below half move, no fatigue. But the skirmishers are gone, so it doesn't matter. Lone hero, yes, he incurs fatigue. So he is at 7 movement fatigue. Yellow infantry block, full move to within 3 inches, right? We went, I think 5.5, but he only moves 9. So this heavy foot block receives fatigue, armored foot hold. Yeah, and those arquebuses had no orders. Yeah, so they remove fatigue on the right side. And that's about it. Okay, thanks for tuning in. I'll post this as soon as possible. It's fairly complicated. Fairly complicated this time.